But if he weren't fit, again, you're going to have to rely on your Harrises, your Taylor Gardner-Hickmans, maybe.
Taylor Gardner-Hickman's played in the left before.
And the right, and in goal, and left back, and centre back. He's been everywhere, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, in the last game, in the Bradford game, I went to the bar and he was serving drinks at half time as well. He's a very versatile player, isn't he? So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue, and we really are getting now to the business end of the football season. Birmingham City have 16 league games left to go, and currently sit top of the league with a 6-point advantage over second place Wycombe Wanderers with a few games in hand. Now, on Tuesday night, Birmingham City have a really important home game against Leyton Orient. This is one of our games in hand, and we'll be hoping that we can continue the momentum, continue our unbeaten run. So in this podcast, myself and Matt are going to preview the game, give our thoughts on Leyton Orient, and just maybe give our thoughts on what the Birmingham City team will be. So Leyton Orient coming to town on Tuesday evening. Matt, your thoughts?
I mean, credit where credit's due, Dad. They're having a sensational second half of the season, aren't they? Richie Wellens, their manager, he's doing a good job. Doesn't have much money there, doesn't have much resource, but he's doing well with the players that he has. And I remember doing the research for the game earlier in the season, Dad, when we beat them at their place. And I looked at the interview that Richie Wellens gave before the game, and he acknowledged that, and he said that on the training ground, he instills that sort of resilience, determination. He wants to get the most out of his players to fight and to have each other's backs and to have that team spirit. So I think he banks on that element to have success at Orient, and it's working. They're doing very, very well. They're clearly a very together group, very determined. They've got that bit between their teeth, and they've got that momentum as well. Fair enough, they did lose at the weekend to Bolton, but I think they've only lost 2 games out of their last 16. That is still momentum, and they're doing very, very well, and I have no doubt. It seems like we say this a lot because we try and respect our League One opponents, Dad, but where they are and what they've done, this is a tough game, especially when you think about our injuries and our fitness levels.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a minute, actually. Yeah. And you are right. I mean, when we played them, I think it was our first away game, second away game of the season, because we played Wycombe as our first away game of the season, and we both felt that they were a decent team, even though we'd beaten them 2-1. They looked good. They had pace, and they looked like they're well organised, and that's shown in the latter part of this season as they progress. In the last 10 games, they've won 7, drawn 1, and lost 2, including their last game. We've won now 6 and drawn 4 of our last 10. Now, if you look at Leyton Orient, their home form and away form is very similar. So they are 7th in both tables. So if you look at the League One home table, they're 7th in terms of points accumulated at home, and they're 7th in the away table as well. So they've got a good away record.
Form.
It is very, very, very much so. Offensively, they've scored the 4th highest amount of goals, 49. We've scored 51, so we're just above them, and they've got the 4th best defence. So, but then that should be no surprise given that they are where they are in the table. Now, what you said was a really good point. When you look at league results, normally a win goes green. A draw is yellow and a red is a loss. There's green all over this, as you can imagine. And they started off the season really, really poor. Lost their first 4 games, and I think that was including against
It was a tough start, though, weren't it? They had like us, Charlton, Huddersfield. They had a lot of big. They had a lot of big games.
They lost 3-0 at Shrewsbury, which wasn't a great result for them. But then they beat Reading and Stockport, and then they went on another run where they drew against Peterborough and Wrexham. Then lost another 3 in a row, and it's really from the Bristol Rovers game on the 3rd of December, beginning of December, that they've really started to get some consistency. So from that point onwards. They've beaten Bristol Rovers, Wigan, drew with Burton. You go through their list. There's a lot of green on there, and which is what really propelled them up the table. This, as you say, is going to be a very, very tough game for us because we'll come on to our injuries in a minute. And this, again, is just the reality of where we are at the moment. But I also understand they've got injuries as well, particularly to their defence. So I think it's going to be a tricky game for both teams because they played as well on Saturday, just like
definitely.
we did.
No.
So even though we can look at ourselves and think, we've got lots of injuries and our tired players are playing a load of games, but so are they.
Oh, Dad, when we make these points, they're not excuses. They're just observations. When we look at the pitch we played on against Reading, it was just an observation. We're not saying that we had a bad, not making an excuse for the result for that. And we're not saying that because we have loads of players out, we shouldn't be winning games. It's just an observation that, we do have a lot of injuries. We have played a lot of games. Our players do look leggy. But, just respecting the opponent, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
they're a good side, and we do a score prediction video when we can, when time allows. And I remember earlier in the season that we both said Orient are a far better team than where they were because they were hovering in and around the relegation zone. However, fair play to them. I didn't think they were good enough to get as high and as into the playoff positions. I mean, if they can finish in the playoffs at the end of the season, that'll be an amazing season for Orient. So fair play to them. They are playing well, and they are having a good second half there. But a little bit on them. I mean, they like to play a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
They do like to dominate the ball in the opposition's half and kind of, put the foot on the neck, as the analogy I like to use. But again, not many teams have done that to us, have they, this season? I can only think of two, really. Stockport away and Wrexham away, where they actually managed to sort of pin us in our own half for about 20 minutes of the second half. No teams have managed to do that, really. So I think they'll struggle to play that style, especially at St.Andrews. But that is what they like to do when they are on the attack. And they stretch teams wide as well. And we'll come on to the Blues in a minute, Dad, but when you look at Laird and Cochrane, off the back of the Reading game, they look absolutely exhausted, don't they? And we'll come on to who we think should play in those positions for this game. But again, some key players for them. I know you like to do this sort of stats, Dad, but Charlie Kelman, who's their top goal scorer, he's a good player, good in the box, he's sharp. He's capitalised on mistakes and can finish, and he's got 10 goals and 3 assists. And Jamie Donnelly as well. He's in their number 2. I think he's on loan from Tottenham at the moment.
Chris Davis would know him well.
Yes,
because he would have been under Chris Davis at Tottenham, and I think he was not tipped to come to us, but we did a video in the summer, didn't we, about players that could potentially we could get from Tottenham. He was one of them.
Yeah,
he's a real star. He's he's obviously showing that he's doing well.
Yeah. I mean, because you can look at Charlie Kalman and say 10 goals and 3 assists, and obviously as the goal scorer, your eyes go to the 10 goals. But look at this, Jamie Donnelly, 6 goals but 5 assists.
Yeah.
So he scores just as much as he contributes for the team as well. Yeah. That is a sign of a very, very good number 10. So he's clearly got a very bright future ahead of him. You mentioned earlier in the podcast that they score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
So have to be wary with them going forward. But they are susceptible to a high press, and I know we're going to come on to Blues' energy levels and our fitness at the moment, but we do like to suffocate teams, don't we? So again,
I think that's how we beat them at their place.
I think it is.
Because before, I think both our goals from memory were mistakes we forced on them.
I think Richie Wellens actually said that in his post-match interview. He said the difference was their energy levels, their fitness, because there wasn't actually much in that game.
No,
I think we did deserve to win it in the end, but it was a closer game than what I thought. So fair play to Orient, but I think you're right that our energy and our relentlessness. We forced them into mistakes, didn't we?
Yeah.
We forced them into pressure. Yeah. I mean, I think 2 of our goals, definitely one of them was off the back of a mistake.
I think their goal was as well.
Yeah.
I think
Bailey Peake got fouled.
Yeah, he was. So it was a game of pressing mistakes. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Charlie Kalman and Jamie Donnelly are the 2 main danger. But there's other Ethan Galbraith as well. He's their central midfield, 5 goals. Dan Aguiar, 4 goals, centre forward. They've got pace. Sonny Perkins, the right winger, 4 goals. They are a fast team as well. Yeah. So we need to be on our guard against these because some decent players in there. As you said, Matt, we can't deny their league position, which has got them where they are. So we know this ain't going to be an easy game.
Nope.
I don't know the extent of fully of their injury. I was reading a little bit about them today just to prepare for the podcast. I know they've got issues with their defence at the moment, centre halves in particular. I think they have got a centre half, but
a centre half.
Well, but every team in the league, when you get in this many games in the depth of February, we all have to cope with it, every team. So there's no point in us saying, "Oh, we got loads of injuries," or they've got to say, "You've got to cope with that."
Also, what's the flip side to that coin, Dad? It gives fringe players a chance to step up. So fair enough. You might lose some of your core 11. I get that. No one wants to lose a Stansfield or a Paker and a Watts or something like that. However, when that does happen, it gives the fringe players a chance to show Chris Davies what they're capable of, and the Orient manager. So.
Absolutely, and I think we need to do that more as well. I think that the problem we saw in the Reading game was some of the players were just fatigued when really we could have freshened it up. Just a little bit on the strength before we go on to the Blues team, but they like shooting directly from free kicks. This is from my research. So they scored a number of goals from doing that. They're very good at finishing, scoring chances. So obviously our defence is really good. We've got an absolutely brilliant defensive record, the best in the league. So that's going to be tested against these. They love counter attacks, as we saw. When you say these, you just remember when we played them, didn't we, at their place? They love attacking down the wings and creating chances through individual skills. So they got tricky players, they got fast players. They're strong at defending set pieces, and they're good at protecting the lead as well. So. weakness, the only weakness I can see at the moment, because this is based upon when I do the research on these teams, it gives me their characteristics based upon where they are right now in the season. It's not just about what they are as a team over a number of years.
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
moment, their only weakness is avoiding offside.
Right.
Doesn't come up with any other weakness at the moment. So
I've got two weaknesses. So,
excellent. Yeah.
So one of them is, as I mentioned earlier, they're susceptible to a high press. So if you pressure them, they can be forced into mistakes. And the second one is when they come at you and they try and play football in your half, they can commit too many men forward, and you can again catch them out at the back. So if they're overly aggressive, however, coming forward, you can catch them out. But Dad, they won't be like that at St.Andrews, will they? I mean, I think they will come and have a go, actually, because of their confidence and their momentum. I mean, they're not going to have a go in the context of trying to pin us in our own half, but they won't. I don't think Orient are going to park the bus as bad as maybe some other League One teams have done. And they will try and catch us, I think, from time to time. That's just the nature of the beast of being at St.Andrews. But they do have some weaknesses, Dad. You know, Orient are absolutely beatable, and it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
Full respect to them, and I completely appreciate what they've done. Let's go on to the Blues team, but a difficult game ahead on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, one final point for me, and we're going to the Blues team now, is really they've beaten Wrexham away and they've beaten Stockport away this season, and they're the only two wins, home or away, against anybody in the top 8.
Okay.
So, you know, they having said that, I know that, you know, it's difficult to say, oh, you can use that as a benchmark, but they seem to have got most of their wins from the teams below them, ninth and downwards, and they've got an excellent record down there. So, like you say, they are beatable, but I think Chris Davis needs to really think this one through in terms of team selection, which brings us nicely onto the Blues team. So we'll go through the team again. We'll go from back to front as usual, and just have a chat about who and why. So do you want to start off, or do you want me to?
Let's do it. So I'll start, Dad, might as well. So I've gone for Allsop in goal.
Yeah.
I thought he's having a sensational season. Allsop, his distribution, even against Reading, Dad kept us in the game. You could argue at certain points towards the end with a few great saves. Love Allsop. I've actually gone for a few curveballs here. I think Laird and Cochrane look absolutely shattered, borderline dead on their feet at the latter part of the Reading game, Dad. So I've actually gone for our new Lee at left back.
Is he fit though?
Is he fit again? This is not based off Cochrane doing anything wrong. This is just a rotationary element to just get some fresh legs in. So I've gone for Lee left back. If he's fit, again, questions. I've gone for Clara and Davies at centre back, and I've gone for Samstead at right back.
Yeah, I've gone slightly different. So I've gone for Allsop in goal. You can't not. I mean, we had Bailey Peacock Farrell in goal last time we played Orient, and he was responsible, but you can't hide the fact for their goal. And even though we won the game, so Allsop will definitely be in goal. I've also gone for Clara and Davis, but in my mind I'm thinking, you know, if any of them need a rest, you could possibly start Hanley.
Yes.
But we've based our success and unbeaten run on our defence. And I think that those two will start. I think it will be Clara and Davis. It's nice to know we've got Hanley to come on if we want to. I've gone for Samstead as well as left back.
Okay.
Give Clara a rest. And I've gone for Laird to stay as right back, because I think that we're going to need that dynamism on the right-hand side, because when we come onto the right, who we talk about is going there in a minute, obviously we know that Anderson's injured. We know that Scott Wright is injured. So we're going to need somebody with a bit of pace on that right-hand side. So I've still plumped for Laird, and even though I don't disagree that he could do with a break,
he looked shattered. In fact, Laird looked the most tired. In my opinion.
I think what we're talking about here shows us the dilemma Chris Davis has got now. He needs to bring in fresh legs, but also needs to put a team out there that is competitive as well.
I just want to say that I said this on the Reading post video as well. We're not the manager. We're not in charge of the backroom staff in terms of the physio, so we don't know what their fitness levels are. We're just making assumptions off the fitness levels we've seen on the pitch recently, aren't we? That's all we're doing here. And these players have done nothing wrong. We're just rotating to get some fresh legs into the system.
That will be in our favour. They're going to play on a nice pitch. Yes, St.Andrews, and it was. In fact, I would hasten to say that that's probably the worst pitch I've seen for many years, not just this season. And I thought in League One we'd get quite a few pitches, but the Reading pitch that they played on, which we got all those injuries, was very, very bad.
It was bad.
And now they're going to come to St.Andrews, which is like a carpet. So they'll be able to play decent football.
Snooker table, I like to say.
Yeah, and that'll be the same for both teams as well. But so we sort of got a slight difference, haven't we, at the back?
So the reason why I've picked my defensive choices there as well. It's not just to get fresh legs in, it's also to free up other players to play in other positions because we're a little bit light. So let me talk it through, Dad. So just to confirm again, I've gone Allsop, Lee, Clara Davies and Samstead. Shall I quickly go through my midfield as well?
Just one point on Lee. I know it depends on his fit. I don't think he will see him because I think the first time we'll see Lee will be on the bench. And he might be on the bench for this game. So that would
Also,
leave a gap on your left back then if that's the case.
Another option would be, and I thought about this, but I've put Bielek in the midfield. This is why when I talked the whole thing through, was you could put Samstead left back and Bielek right back. But then,
actually, I haven't put Bielek in there. See, so what I could do to give Laird a break with mine, I could have Samstead. Yeah, like you just said.
I put Bielek in my centre mid.
Why is he not in my team? I don't know. I'm looking at my team because I just did this, preparing for this, and I'm wondering why.
Interesting.
So
I in my initial
do
selection,
I like Bielek?
You've got a subconscious bias.
Honestly, I do like Bielek, and if he's fit and available, I think that he could start at that right back position. Actually.
I think we could see Samstead at left back and Bielek at right back with Clara and Davies in the middle. But what I've chosen, talking through my midfield, I've gone for Bielek and Iwata at the centre mids. Then I've gone for Hansen on the left, Dowell in the 10, Taylor Gardner-Hickman on the right, feeding into Alfie May. So
that's quite similar to mine.
You might understand why I haven't put Taylor Gardner-Hickman at the right back and Bielek at right back. I've kind of used those players to fill up other positions.
Can you give him Paker a rest? And so am I, because he needs a rest. He does.
Exactly.
He looked fatigued. But interestingly, this is a thought. As you were talking about the Bielek situation, if we played him at right back, do you remember against Barnsley where Chris Davies, for 2 minutes, trialled Laird on the right?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
But then Cochrane got injured, so we had to shift him, didn't he, back again?
Yeah.
That could happen in this game. So you could potentially play Bielek at right back and put Laird on the right.
Yeah,
you could do, but that's an option. So yeah, that's. So actually, I'm going to change it because now you mentioned Bielek. I want him at right back in this team because it's just literally just bypassed me completely. That didn't, but I think that's a really good choice. So my midfield goes like this. Okay, now I've gone for Hansen on the left. Mm-hmm. I've gone for Taylor Gardner-Hickman and Iwata in the middle, like you have. Mm-hmm. And then I've gone for a combination of Harris. I've put him actually on the right, Harris on the right, because he's a bit pacey. Dowell in the number 10, feeding into Alfie May. So quite similar. Yeah. And I know a lot of Blues fans are not sold on Harris, but this is a game where we need energy. We need fresh legs, and he'll give us that. And it's just, at the end of the day, we've got to bear in mind that, we need to put a team out there. There is not just putting players in because they've done really well for the season. If they're tired and they're shattered, they're not going to last. They're going to get injured.
Exactly.
So we have to put fresh legs on there. So, we know that the team selection is going to be difficult for Chris Davies in terms of what's available. But I think that either option we showed you, we've still got players there that we could...
You could even argue, Dad, Clara and Davies at points against Reading look tired. Because they've played the pure volume of games, haven't they? They've played. I mean, Clara especially has played pretty much the majority of games this season.
You could see Hanley come in for Clara. I think Davies will keep his place. Not that Clara deserves to lose his place, but he just need a break. Yeah. Just
a break.
So and Hanley's quite a capable defender.
Oh, he's good. Yeah.
So I think maybe give Clara a break, have him on the bench, and have maybe Hanley and Davies up there. But it's all like you've mentioned, Matt. It's all what we don't know.
Ifs and buts, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't know how fit these players are, or when somebody's not like I've chosen to have Hansen start now. That's a bold move if that happens because he's been injured for a while. He was on the bench, wasn't he, against Reading, but didn't even come on.
Yeah.
When there was a chance to bring him on, and therefore that tells me that Chris Davies doesn't think he's quite ready yet.
And that's fair enough. Exactly that. Because I think the Reading game was actually crying out for Hansen a bit of pace because we really
fit Hansen.
Fit Hansen, yes, absolutely. But I've put Hansen in mine as well on the left, but if he weren't fit, again, you're going to have to rely on your Harrises, your Taylor Gardner-Hickmans, maybe.
Taylor Gardner-Hickman's played on the left before.
And the right, and in goal, and left back, and centre back. He's been everywhere, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, in the last game, in the Bradford game, I went to the bar and he was serving drinks at half time as well. He's a very versatile player, isn't he? But I think there's lots of options there, but it's how Chris Davies. I like the option, as we've been talking. It's good doing this podcast because talking it through, to have Bielek on the right back, possibly put Laird on the right wing is a good option.
And then put Samstead at left back.
Yes,
Yeah.
and give Cochrane a break because
Yeah.
Cochrane does need a break, doesn't he?
He does.
He looks shattered as well. That gives us a bit of balance there, and then that potentially then would free Taylor Gardner-Hickman to go up on the left, maybe if Hanson's not fit.
Maybe, yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
But I think if that option isn't there, me personally, I'd like to see the two biggest for me who looked the most tired was Laird and Cochrane. They looked shattered. Paik was up there as well. You could pick the majority of our team, Dad. They looked a bit leggy, didn't they? But
I've noticed as well, mate. Neither you or I have actually got Williamson in that starting lineup as well.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this. If you guys have watched yesterday's podcast where we did the Reading post match, both me and Matt agree that he's just off the pace at the moment. He doesn't look, and I think it's partly because he's been playing in the wrong position again. We did a podcast earlier in the season. I think it's where it might be where we lost to Shrewsbury or we drew with Northampton. And the title of the thumb, I look back at this, it says, right players, wrong positions.
Shrewsbury away.
Yeah, right players, wrong positions. And it's shown you that if you put Stansfield or Alfie in the number 9, that's where they're most effective. Williamson just is not effective in that.
For me, Dad,
Ride White, he has to be in the number 10.
it's Dowell or Williamson in the 10, not in the same team. A bit like Stansfield and May. They're both in the number 9, but they're not on the pitch at the same time. It's like one or the other.
Dowell had a poor game against Reading, but I think that was partly to do with the pitch. But he gave the ball away a few times. But he seems to. He started every game since he started.
He's a good player.
Unless he's absolutely shattered, which I don't think he is. I think we'll probably see him start.
The only way Williamson and Dowell work for me is to have Williamson in the 10 and Dowell can play a bit more on the right. But for me, it took us half a season to figure out Stansfield or Alfie May. Was it an either or, wasn't it?
I don't think Williamson or Dowell work together in the same team, in my opinion. I think they're both similar types of players. And I think Williamson has to be in that number 10, which Chris Davies prefers Dowell. And therefore, if he's going to shoehorn Williamson into the wide right, I think that's a mistake.
Also, I think Dowell at the minute deserves the number 10.
Yeah.
I think he's ahead of Williamson at the minute for me, personally.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, fair enough. I know didn't have a great game against Reading, but no one massively did. It was an underwhelming game of football. I think he has the potential to unlock teams more.
I agree, and he's a good player, but I also think as well, Matt, that we'll see Yuki on the bench as well, because how can we not? I mean, what are the strikers have we got now? So obviously now Stansfield's going to be out, isn't he?
It's May and Yuki.
May's going to be starting. Dykes is injured. So
Stano's injured, Dykes is injured, so that leaves us with Alfie May and Yuki.
Yeah.
So you're right, Dad. Yuki will definitely make the bench now because Alfie May has to start up front.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I love Alfie May.
Yeah.
Absolutely top fan of Alfie May. I have no problem with that. But my worry is the pace of Stano. I think we really miss it, don't we?
I think what this is showing us now that we're in this business end of the season with all these games coming thick and fast and these injuries and games coming one after the other, it's showing me where we lack for next season now. This is just highlighting that we need more pace on the wings, both wings, right? We need more pace, more pace up front. We've got pace. We Stano, Alfie May buzzes around everywhere. But we need more pace up front as well. So it's just showing you, well, I'm sure Chris Davies is seeing this, where he wants to plug the gaps that we will need to. And this is all going to help him for next season. So I think this is one of the most toughest team selections I think we've done this season because of the injuries and because of, I suppose, the quality of the opposition. I suppose, does that really matter? Because at the end of the day, 3 points against Leyton Orient is the same as 3 points against Cambridge.
Yeah.
It's still 3 points.
Absolutely.
But I think it's more to do, really, I suppose, therefore, then to the injuries and the amount of games. And also, don't forget, we've got a big game at 12:30 against Wickham on Saturday as well.
Absolutely.
So it ain't going to stop after this. So I think this is where we're going to have to see utilise that squad now. And I say, so will Leyton Orient. They are going to have to utilise their. I think we'll see their big guns. Obviously, the likes of Charlie Kalman, Donnelly. All the players that have gotten so far this season. But for me, this is probably the toughest team selection that I've had to think about this season.
This could be one of the tougher games this season, off the back of rotation, getting fresh legs in, and where we are now in the part of the season. Orient are going to want to cement themselves in the playoffs. We still want to create that daylight. And you say we've got Wickham on Saturday as well. So the short-term fixtures aren't relenting. And hopefully, as I say, we can get through this and just get through these next two games for me. And don't get me wrong,
then we got Bolton afterwards.
That's not disrespecting everyone else who comes after. Yeah, but it's more like these two now for me are so big that hopefully we can crack on and keep that momentum going moving forward. But I mean, that brings on to a score prediction, Dad. So you first, me first. What do you fancy?
I'll go first if you like. I've gone for a narrow 1-0 victory for Blues.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay, I've gone a 1-goal margin, but I think they'll score. I've gone for Leyton Orient, Birmingham City 2, Leyton Orient 1.
One thing we are good at is defending,
We
and that's why. I mean, I've completely flipped from the start of the season because I remember when I was doing score predictions at the beginning of the season, so many times saying I can't predict a clean sheet. Now I can't predict us not. Can't predict us conceding. So I think this will be a good game, but I've gone for a narrow 1-0 victory for us. You've gone for a 2-1 as well.
2-1 Blues. So
2-1.
a 1-goal margin, the same. But I've just got a feeling with the way the injuries are. I mean, don't get me wrong, we are solid defensively, so that probably is our strongest asset at the moment. But I've got a feeling a corner's going to come in or a scrappy set piece or something's going to get him a goal. But I still think we're going to get the 3 points. It's going to be a close game. I think we'll get it over the line. Birmingham City 2, Leyton Orient 1.
And that'll do for me. I'd love to know what you Blues fans think about this one as well. Big game, isn't it, Leyton Orient? They've done very well this season. They're up in the playoff positions for a reason. We know it's going to be a tough game, but we know every game at St.Andrews has been tough, hasn't it? Every team has upped their game against us, so we sort of know what we're in for, really. The injuries make it a bit more of a challenge, but we'd love to know what your team selection are. Add a comment below and let us know what your thoughts are about the starting lineup. Also, give us your score predictions as well. Put them in the comments below. Me and Matt are always interested to see your opinions. If you're an Orient fan, if you come across this channel for the first time, we welcome comments as well from the opposition fans. So please add your comments below about what your thoughts are, and let us know how your team will get on. If you did like this podcast, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, then pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And if you like to watch or listen to your podcast on Spotify, you'll also find us on there, and you'll see the handles appearing on the screen for all of these channels right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you'd like to, don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button. If you want notification every time we put a new podcast out, then hit the little bell next to the subscribe button to enable that to happen. So that's it for this podcast. Hope you enjoyed it, and myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.